What up? This is your Cosmic Homegirl, and I'm just gonna do a quick video looking into the chart of Mac Miller, who is a rapper that passed away on September 7th of 2018. I've gotten a few requests for this, so I'm just going to look into what happened. Was it accidental? Was it on purpose? Maybe one day I'll check out his personality a little bit more and do a personality reading. I'll sprinkle a little bit of personality stuff in here, but I just kind of felt like maybe I should explain through astrology what can we see in a chart that is it can show like somebody overindulging, doing a little too much. Maybe if you see this in your own chart, you can just kind of stop yourself from going overboard with things. And also, there's a lot of debate, people saying that Ariana Grande is like the cause of his overdose, which I'll give you my 2 cents on that too. This is his birth date, January 19th, 1992 in Pittsburgh. This is a speculative birth time, so please do not take it and run with it. I do not have a confirmed birth time, okay? I put him as a Pisces rising because he looks like a Pisces to me. He has Pisces features. There is a Pisces sun person that he has very similar features to, which is Whoa Vicky. I know she's famous for some viral internet stuff or whatever. She and he, I noticed some similarities in their facial features. I'm really big on reading facial features compared to astrological signs and energies. So that's why I picked Pisces rising, and also because he has struggled a lot with drugs for a long time. And Pisces is the sign on the zodiac that rules drugs, and it's ruled by Neptune. Pisces, Neptune, and the 12th house, they all rule drugs because they rule escapism. And what's the most common form of escapism, especially these days while Neptune is transiting through Pisces? It's through drugs, okay? You can hear it in the music, you can see it everywhere, that this is why there's such like more of an epidemic these days. So he could be a Pisces rising, and also he gives off a vibe that's kind of Aquarian. And I've seen a lot of people like circulating some stuff online. Oh my god, he was a Capricorn Aquarius, and I'm like, where is he in Aquarius? He has Saturn in Aquarius. When we get a little bit more detailed and in-depth and more like nerdy and complicated with astrology, I guess you can say the ruling planet of his sun is in Aquarius, which can give him an Aquarius vibe. But people were talking about cusps, and just in my practice, there's no cusp. You are either 29 degrees of a planet being like 29 degrees in one sign or 0 degrees in another. But there are other variables and factors that can cause you to still have qualities of other signs, which like really dives deep. But anyway, Pisces rising, if I'm correct on that by any chance, could put him having a stellium of planets in the 11th house. 11th house energy is very similar to Aquarius. So that could be why, if people are picking up on Aquarius energy from him, but they don't really know like the correct terminologies and stuff for astrology, maybe that's where that's coming from. This is all speculative though. But what's not speculation is him being a Capricorn sun. He also has Mercury conjunct Uranus conjunct Neptune in his chart, and this plays a really important part in what happened to him, because Mercury, it is the mind. It's how you speak, it's how you communicate, it's how you express yourself verbally, and it's what you do with your hands as well. And Uranus is a planet that is about, it's eccentric, it's wild, it's kind of mad scientist energy. And this is why he was a producer, because Uranus is a planet that rules technology, and Neptune is a planet that rules music. So, this is why hands, technology, music, okay? This is why he started playing instruments young and everything. And he does a lot of producing. And this is why his speech, I saw an interview, people making fun of the way he spoke. But people who have outer planets conjunct their Mercury, or even an aspect or conjunct their moon, their speech may be a little bit different, and they seem quote unquote out there with the way that they communicate, because their minds are always out there with these outer planets, Uranus and Neptune, for example, in a conjunction very strongly affecting their Mercury, okay, which is thoughts and everything. So now he has these in Capricorn, in the middle degrees of Capricorn. And they make a trine aspect to Jupiter in the middle degrees of Virgo. The trine means same element, which is Earth, and then they're around the same degree, okay? So Jupiter is a planet that does rule excess, doing things, like kind of overdoing things. You always hear things circulating about Jupiter being a planet of good luck. Yeah, he's not just a magical lucky genie, okay? He also rules overdoing, overthinking, overdoing, overeating, over drinking, over anything, okay? Because Jupiter's energy is about having faith and optimism in things and just kind of jumping and flying without really thinking about consequences. It can usually be a very happy-go-lucky energy that just it says no worries, no worries, everything will be fine, without really looking into the details to see, will everything really be all right? What are the consequences of my actions? Jupiter can be someone's downfall sometimes because of that. Okay, so this is what's in his natal chart. So what was transiting, meaning, these planets, symbols out here, the green ones there, what was going on at that time? Where were all the planets and everything? So number one, September 7th, 2018, the sun was in opposition to Neptune by transit. Okay, here's the sun, here's Neptune. Neptune, once again, it rules drugs, alcohol, escapism, not really wanting to face reality. And the sun was illuminating that. They're opposing each other, and they're on the axis of Pisces and Virgo. Pisces and Virgo axis, or even the 6th and 12th house axis, if you will, rules health and well-being. That's all around health, spiritual, mental, physical, everything. And so when we had this axis activated this week by this transit, it did bring up some things involving balance, a disbalance possibly. Both of these signs can deal with balance or disbalance within your own self as a physical being, because you could be way too on the Neptune side, the Pisces side, and just be floating off in your own zone, not even concerned about the practical world. Or you can be way too much in the Virgo or the 6th house zone, which is all about what you do day to day, your work, your physical body, and only seeing what's in front of you physically and only believing in that. But we all as human beings, we need a balance. We need to be spiritual and we need to be physical. And I did remember reading something that Ariana Grande said about him not being very balanced. So I think he was struggling with some sort of maybe 12th and 6th house axis stuff in his natal chart. Of course, if we had his correct birth time, we would know. If he is a Pisces rising, like I speculate he could be, he does have an opposition between Saturn, which would be in the 12th house, and Chiron, which would be in the 6th house. So there's that health, that, mind, body, soul connection axis that he has two malefics in, meaning two, I guess you could say, negative influences that can cause some difficulty there. Okay, so that's what's in his natal chart. The Sun Neptune opposition, I mean, a lot of people were feeling around September 7th. And as I'm recording this, it's September 8th. So, maybe people still have that lingering of kind of being caught in a fog, like maybe oversleeping, maybe being super tired, maybe not really wanting to deal with life, maybe feeling like victims, feeling sorry for themselves, or there's so many things we can say about a Sun and Neptune opposition. I did make a post on my Instagram talking about it in detail if you want to read that. But this activated his whole Jupiter, trine, Mercury, Uranus, and Neptune in his natal chart, with the sun being here in Virgo on the day he passed. So Sun conjunct Jupiter days, everybody goes through that once a year. The sun passes their own Jupiter. That could be a day where someone really wants to party hard, or they really just want to celebrate life, or they can be overindulgent. Like they can overeat. They can be like, oh, I'm just super hungry. Like, I just want this. I want it all. I want everything. Or they can, if they have addiction problems, yeah, this is a day where they can overindulge within their addictions. Because Jupiter, once again, is about not seeing the consequences. You just go, woohoo, right? So if the sun was activating that, which in return activated Mercury And Uranus can rule anxiety and just kind of suddenly, all of a sudden, doing things unexpectedly. And Neptune, which rules drugs and escapism. Okay, so this was all activated, and then the sun was opposing Neptune. His own Neptune was activated. So you get it. This is the math that not that I came up with, but that really happened. I mean, you can look it up yourself. You can look up an astrological ephemeris or whatever. But that's pretty much what activated the overdose, is those transits. And also, Saturn went direct on September 6th. Saturn is in Capricorn. It's the ruling planet of Capricorn. And so it rules his sun. And while Saturn was retrograde, I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that, especially when it comes to like public figures, their lives are on display. We could see what's going on with them, or even in your own lives or people around you. You could see that there was a lot of karmic things that came up, a lot of lessons, hard lessons to learn. Maybe a lot of things backfired on people when they try to do some dumb stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because Saturn is a planet of discipline, and it's kind of like a teacher or a dad, and when you're doing wrong, it's like they gave you an assignment, gave you a chore or something to do. And then if you turn and then they say, okay, I'm gonna leave you alone unless you do it. And that's when it's retrograde. But then it's like, okay, then they come back around to check on you. Well, have you been working on this thing that I gave you to work on? That's what Saturn can act like. And then when Saturn moves direct, it's like, okay, let me check on you. Have you been working on this? If not, okay, well, then I'm going to punish you. So obviously, with this being the ruler of his sun, the sun is like your life force, your vitality. He wasn't working on what Saturn has given him to work on karmically, which is being here, grounded in reality, grounded in earth, not depending upon drugs, alcohol, or anything to escape. Music is also ruled by Neptune, which is why he was, such a genius with music. So he should have been diverting his energy, that Neptunian energy within him, strictly towards music for an escape and not drugs. And I'm pretty sure Big Daddy Saturn told him that. But since he wasn't, doing his homework and everything, then when Saturn came back around, he snatched him up pretty much. I hate to say. But do I think that it was on purpose or accidental? Well, here's the thing. The majority of me is leaning towards accidental. That he was just partying way too much, because when you have, Jupiter and Neptune, they're party planets, and they could be happy planets. Like, you just want to do things that put you into a state of bliss. Okay. Not necessarily depression. Sometimes Neptune can deal with depression and victimization, but Jupiter involved, it usually doesn't deal with stuff like that. And another thing is comparing his situation to Demi Lovato. You see, these are the transits the day that Demi Lovato overdosed, but she survived. Now look at here. She was born the same year, 1992. She has Jupiter also in Virgo, and she has Venus around the same degree as her Jupiter, middle degrees of Virgo, right? So there was a transiting planet that activated all that. She has Jupiter and Venus in a great aspect to Neptune and Uranus as well in her chart. Especially her Neptune, her Venus and Neptune make an exact trine. Look, they're both 16 degrees. So when Venus came to be transiting, being conjunct her natal Venus, conjunct her Jupiter, that's enjoyment. These are two planets of enjoyment. And then she was overly enjoying herself because of Jupiter having that potential. And then Neptune is drugs, so she wanted to enjoy herself and indulge by participating in escapism. And then they were also opposing Neptune, the planet of drugs, out up there in the sky at that time. So if you do the math, you look, there's a lot of Neptune and Jupiter. That means somebody is just they just didn't see the consequences of their actions with wanting to enjoy themselves. Okay, so that's what I see very similar with his Jupiter, Neptune. Okay, I don't want to repeat myself, but I feel like this was more accidental. Do I believe that it could have been on purpose? Yeah, a small part of me does, simply because he's a Cancer moon, and we just had an eclipse in the sign of Cancer in July. And it more than likely was in a conjunction with his natal moon. And then, the moon can rule your inner mind and your emotions and how you deal with your emotions. And when there's an eclipse on your moon, sometimes, it can affect you in a really deep and profound way. And if you're already super emotional as a Cancer, I mean, this is stuff that you can hide away, that you're feeling, and you can let it like linger and, just kind of harbor a bunch of feelings and stuff. And then eclipse may eclipse some of that stuff out, force you to bring it out. So he could have been going through some kind of depressive state or something that maybe we don't know about. And another thing, speaking of depression, Capricorn is a sign that rules depression, and its ruling planet rules that too. Because if I read the interview that he gave with Vulture, and it came out actually the day before that he passed, which is very ironic. And I just got the vibe from him that he really puts a lot of pressure on himself to stay humble, number one. And number two, he's had that attitude like, oh, I'm not really all that great. Yeah, like I'm not really all that. I'm not really like a famous guy. I'm just a guy. Like that's kind of the vibe that he gave off. Capricorn energy, it rules depression because it's like a disappointed parent always telling you you're not good enough. Okay. And so Capricorns, that's why they work so hard and why they can continue to climb and climb and climb with their work, because they never feel like what they do is good enough. Now, if you're a Capricorn and you feel differently, good for you. Maybe you have other aspects affecting that, okay? But I'm just talking about the general energy of the sign and its ruling planet. And another thing is Pluto, it rules death, amongst some other things that aren't as creepy and scary. And Pluto has been transiting over his Mercury, Uranus, Neptune. So he's kind of been teetering, like playing with fire, you know what I'm saying, for a while. And, with Mercury ruling your thinking, he's had Pluto in a conjunction with his Mercury. And that's, so he could have been thinking about death a lot. And I saw one of his last music videos, self-care. And self-care, that's the whole like Virgo Pisces axis, or 6th and 12th house axis too, deals with self-care. So I found that to be kind of ironic. But in that video, he's in a coffin and he's smoking a cigarette. Those are habits. That axis deals with habits. Okay. So, and there was a death theme, I guess you can say, because he was in a coffin or whatever. And so Mercury, having Pluto, the planet of death, transit over that. Yeah, he's had it on his mind for a while. So Mercury is what you do with your hands as well. Uranus is sudden things, Neptune drugs, Pluto is death. Okay, so I do believe there's a possibility that he could have just randomly done something out of impulse, especially because Mars, the planet of impulsiveness as well, violent impulsiveness, is on top of his sun in Capricorn right now. His sun is 28 degrees of Capricorn, maybe 29 if he was born like way later in the day. Let's see, Mars is at, where the planets are at now. Where's Mars? 29 degrees of Capricorn. So it's like sitting right on his sun. So he could have been feeling angry about something and taken action in a very impulsive and sudden way that has to do with drugs. And also that means that Mars was opposing his moon. The moon is your emotion. So he could have done something emotional out of impulse. Okay. But I really do feel like, maybe it could have been a combination of the two things. Maybe he was feeling angry and upset about something, so he wanted to enjoy himself and indulge and escape, but he went overboard with it. Do I think Ariana Grande is to blame? No. People need to leave that poor girl alone. This is a grown man who made his own decision to do something. And I mean, he could have been harboring some feelings left over from her leaving him and being in a new relationship. But I don't feel like she is the cause of his passing. I think people should leave her alone. One thing about Ariana is, she is speculated to be a Capricorn rising, and Mars would be in her sign right now. A lot of Capricorn rising people, or Capricorns in general, or even people who have Mars in Capricorn, they're going through some things at the moment. Mars is a planet of anger and people attacking. So people are kind of attacking her right now. And Mars is making a square, no, yeah, a square aspect to Venus right now. So, you know, this is the feminine and this is the masculine. So anyway, I can go on about that, but you know, I don't think that Ariana is to blame, and I think people are just attacking her, which is Mars, when they shouldn't be. So this is my analysis on what happened to Mac Miller. If you have any questions, you can drop them below. If you have any intelligent astrological conversation, anything to add to it, you know, please drop it below in the comments. And until my next video, you know, may this guy RIP. Hopefully his soul can find peace and balance and harmony where it is at now. And, you know, my condolences go out to all the fans and to his family and to everyone who is suffering right now with the loss of him in the physical realm. But please believe he is in the spiritual. So take care, you guys. Peace.